Welcome to Straight from the Gavel. I'm your host, Dave Barber. Each and every week at this time, we like to invite a member of the General Assembly in and discuss some of the things they've been working on and its impact on all of us here in the Ocean State. It gives me a great deal of pleasure to welcome a gentleman that we've had the good fortune of interviewing many times. We're certainly grateful that he's spending a half hour with us today. He represents Bristol and Portsmouth, the Honorable State Representative Ray Gallison. Chairman, it's good to see you, sir.
Great to see you, Dave. Thanks for having me today.
You know, and again, this really punctuates the fact that just because session is officially recessed, a lot of work continues to go on for members of the General Assembly. In addition to those House duties, you serve as co-chair of something called the Defense Economy Planning Commission. It sounds pretty important. What's it all about, and what are some of the things that you do?
Well, Dave, the commission, what we're looking at to try to enhance the defense economy in the state of Rhode Island. As you know, we have a very big military presence, not only in Naval Station Newport, but also our own Rhode Island National Guard. They've taken the forefront in a lot of different areas, especially with aircraft, the special aircraft that are here in the state of Rhode Island. They're working to try to get more of Rhode Island to actually become a training area for the special aircraft. That's the C-130Js that they have here. And they work closely with Naval Station Newport, which has a very big presence here, and the Naval War College, the Naval Prep School, and some of the other commands that are here. And there are a lot of other important industries that are here in the state of Rhode Island. Raytheon is a major employer, as you know, in the Portsmouth area. And we're trying to make sure that those defense-related industries are prepared, and that we work with them to try to see what are the problems and what are the things that they actually need to enhance their businesses here in the state of Rhode Island. Recently, we had the Hellcat, which is one of the new fighters that's going to be coming out of production for Lockheed Martin. They were here in the state of Rhode Island. They want a bigger presence in the state of Rhode Island, and so we're trying to help them. We're trying to make sure that what is it that they need? Do they need space? Do they need buildings? Exactly what it is. So those are the things that we're looking at to bring jobs, good-paying jobs here in the state of Rhode Island.
Yeah, because we're talking not just about military personnel. We're talking about a lot of civilian jobs, too, that could possibly be created. And I guess that would be a key goal of your commission, right?
Exactly. It's a very key goal that we bring in more businesses and more of the defense economy people to come here in the state of Rhode Island. And, you have the larger employers, if you're doing the Raytheons, but there's a lot of other smaller businesses that provide things to Raytheon, other facets of their programs that they can work together, and they can help to grow the state of Rhode Island.
You know, in dollars and cents, how important is the defense industry to our economy here in Rhode Island? I got to believe it's a fairly substantial number.
It is a very fairly substantial number. We have many businesses here right now which are looking to grow, because there is another area, and it is cybersecurity. And that is very important. And I believe that we're close to almost $1 billion in defense economy here in the state of Rhode Island, between Naval Station Newport, Rhode Island National Guard with all of their people, and the other defense industries here in the state of Rhode Island. Even if you look at General Dynamics, Electric Boat, that has a very large presence. And by the way, they are hiring. They're hiring people right now. They need, for the 2 new submarines that are being planned right now, they need help. And there are training programs out there right now with places like New England Tech, OIC, which are trying to get people trained to work in these industries. This is manufacturing. This is very important. Rhode Island was one of a very strong manufacturing base years ago, but unfortunately that has left the state of Rhode Island. However, with the defense industries, these are manufacturing jobs that are here in the state of Rhode Island and will stay in the state of Rhode Island for security reasons. Because when you have people that are working at Electric Boat, they need to be able to have the defense clearances, if you will, the security clearances. And a lot of our people that are coming back from overseas through Afghanistan and Iraq, hopefully are going to be able to transition into some of these positions.
That would be terrific. I know veterans matters are very important to you. You serve as the House Veterans Affairs Chair here in the building, and you're dealing with all kinds of veterans groups, veterans themselves, some of these corporations that deal with manufacturing products for the military. What kind of feedback did you get from these folks collectively during this recent federal shutdown? How did it impact the folks here in Rhode Island?
Well, one of the problems there wasn't a problem, because what happened was when we have a veteran that passes away and we have to have a funeral, we have a firing squad that goes down and to honor that veteran. Those people were not impacted, which was very, very fortunate for us. But there were other people that were furloughed. A lot of the people that worked for the National Guard were furloughed. Fortunately, they've come back to work now. Naval Station Newport, a lot of people were furloughed, but they're being brought back now. But we still have sequestration out there. And that is a major, major, major concern of mine, because we're going to be looking at what is called a base realignment commission in the next couple of years. And what that means is that the federal government, particularly the military, will be looking at what areas can they cut. And that is a very major concern of mine. And that's why the Defense Economy Commission, we're also looking at that. We're also trying to help Naval Station Newport, Rhode Island National Guard. What are the things that we can do to help them, whether it be with electricity costs, other utility costs, some of the things that they need. For example, Naval Station Newport has the ability right now to demolish a building and to build a whole new one. But it all depends on what's going to happen with the BRAC Commission when they come forward. Are they going to want to keep this particular command here? Are they going to want to move them out of here? If we, in the state of Rhode Island, can show the federal government that what we need to do is we will help partner with Naval Station Newport, help demolish that building so that they in turn can build a brand new building which will house a number of military personnel. Those are the types of things that we need to do, and we need to get ahead of the curve right now. We were successful in the last BRAC process, where we brought other commands here to the state of Rhode Island, commands from Georgia, things like that came here and stayed here. But it's very easy for the military to leave, and we don't want to see that happen. We want them here.
You know, I was just thinking while you were explaining that, it's often been talked about, it's been rumored that Senator Reed, Jack Reed's been considered for maybe Secretary of Defense cabinet post for the president. He has, from all indications, a stellar military background. I would think that if that were to ever happen, if he were ever to assume a post like that, that would bode very well for our state, I would think. Especially, we seem to be pretty good at this military stuff.
I think it would be. However, I think that he is more important to us, if you will, in the U.S. Senate, because he understands it. And when you have other senators that are in there that may not understand what the defense industry is or what it is in the terms of defense, he can explain that. It's just like when we were talking with my own colleagues here in the House, what is it that a veteran needs? And I can explain that better than having someone else coming from the outside. And I think that's where Senator Reed plays a very, very important role. So we're fortunate in having him in the U.S. Senate. But we are also very fortunate that the new, admiral for Naval Station Newport is a Burrillville, Rhode Island resident.
Really?
And it's Admiral Ted Carter, who used to play hockey for Burrillville High School. His nickname is Slapshot, and he is here in the state of Rhode Island. He has a great, I've met with him, has a great affinity for the state of Rhode Island, obviously, but he also wants to do more outreach in the state of Rhode Island and helping young people realize that the Navy might be a good career. And in those areas that they need to probably get some of the education would be in mathematics and some of the sciences. And he's willing to come forward and has made that pledge that he would come forward to working with school departments to show how he made it. Here's a kid from Burrillville, if you will, that made it to an admiral. And that's really great. That's really good. And now he's the president of the Naval War College.
Well, I was not aware of that. That's a great story. And it certainly is terrific that we have a person like him in that capacity. Do you think that we'll ever get back to the pre-1973 era of the Navy presence in Newport? I don't really know exactly what happened. Richard Nixon, I heard, during his administration, slashed some budgets or moved some people around for whatever reason. Even though our presence with the Navy in Newport is still significant, it isn't what it once was. Any chance that we'll ever recover some of that and we'll get back to those kind of levels that we once were?
Well, I think that you're right, that the President Nixon did consolidate. He took Naval Station Newport, or those ships that were here, and actually moved them down to Norfolk, Virginia, and had them in one location. Personally, I don't think it was a good idea. I still don't think it's a good idea because of the fact when you're concentrating all of your major carriers and your major frigates and things like that in one area, they should probably be spread out more. And Newport was a perfect location. But I think the style of ship, if you will, has changed greatly. And the capability of the warship, if you will, has changed. No more do you see the big battleships. You see now these modern frigates, if you will, that have the capabilities of firing surface-to-air missiles, missiles right from the deck of the ship, cruise missiles, things like that. So I think that's we probably will not see a major presence of those types of ships. We could, and hopefully we can, attract some of those other ships, because the pier's still in existence down in Newport. And if we could get a couple of ships like that, that brings in more personnel that we need to, not only in terms of Navy personnel, but civilians. That would be essential to making sure to servicing the ships and making sure that they're ready and they have the readiness to go.
That's an excellent point, because the military and technology is certainly changing the way the military operates. I think back to that famous debate with President Obama and Mr. Romney, when the president pointed out how these times they are changing and technology is much different today, and the military is much more sophisticated as a result of that technology.
Very sophisticated, and a lot of that technology is being born, if you will, right here in the state of Rhode Island with some of the companies that are here. And I know I visited Naval Station Newport, and specifically the War College, and if you look at what they have as in terms of modern technology, what they can look at now, today, in real time, as compared to years ago, it's totally amazing. It's something to see. It's unbelievable.
You know, after you complete this taping, you're running off to that Defense Economy Planning Commission, and you have a group that is coming before you today, I understand, called the Southeastern New England Defense Industry Alliance. What's that all about, and what will they be sharing with you today? Are you privy to knowing what they'll be talking about?
Yes, that group is all of the major contractors, defense contractors here in the southeastern New England area that are getting together. I think one of the things we'll have to remember, too, is that not only do we have the defense economy in here in the state of Rhode Island, but we kind of feed off one another between southeastern Massachusetts and the New England area. From where we like to call it the defense corridor, from here, Aquidneck Island, all the way down to Woods Hole. Because even if you look at what they're doing in Woods Hole in terms of oceanographic studies and things like that, all of those things play together. And what they're going to be talking about today is cybersecurity and what a threat that is, and what we should be doing in helping that cybersecurity industry, both in terms of the private defense contractors with the Navy, and more importantly even with the Rhode Island National Guard, some of the technology that they have been able to get. They have some very top-notch individuals that are working there, extremely well qualified in understanding what it is for cybersecurity and how can we stop these attacks, if you will, on our own computer systems and things like that, because that's very major. I mean, you know, if you look at some of the businesses that have had their computer systems hacked, I mean, that is important, and you want to make sure that whatever we have militarily that can't be hacked.
Boy, let's hope you're right on that, especially with the news the last few days regarding our federal government's ability utilizing computers. They might need some of that military expertise that has been working on cybersecurity, because it can be an area where countries can become very vulnerable very quickly. And that's an area, I got to believe, Chairman, is only going to grow. That's going to become more and more important.
It is growing, and it is becoming more and more important, and it's the process of us, if you will. When I say us, I mean the United States, keeping ahead of the technology, ahead of the hackers, ahead of those people that don't like the United States, and they're trying to do things to us. So that's very important.
You know, and it's only appropriate, too, that we have you on now, because around the corner, Veterans Day will be here. I know it's an important day for you and your committee, and you always have some events that are going on that are paying tribute to men and women who've served in our military. What do you have in store for us this year?
Well, there's many events that will be going on around the state on the 11th, which is actually the Veterans Day, which is on the Monday. In Bristol, for example, we have a wreath-laying ceremony, and then we have a special ecumenical service at the Veterans Home, and then we have another service with another wreath-laying ceremony at the Rhode Island Veterans Home to honor the men and women that are residents of the Veterans Home and that are in our state's care. So it's important that we do that. But this year, Water Fire has come forward with the Rhode Island Broadcasters Association, and they're going to be putting on a very, very special water fire on Saturday evening, November the 9th. And 100 veterans from around the state have volunteered to actually carry the torches from the state, from here in the State House, down to water fire to actually light the water fires. And it's going to be really a very special event. I know that we're going to have over across from on South Main Street, across from the Superior Court, there's all of our monuments there where they're going to be lighted, and so there's a lot of special things that we're going to be doing to honor our veterans this year.
That's a terrific idea, that water fire. What a nice tribute that'll be, and it'll allow people to not only experience the excitement and the majesty of water fire, but to also pay homage to men and women who've served, past and present, in our military. And I know something that's very important to you too are the Vietnam era veterans, because you put an event on each year that calls special attention to Vietnam veterans. I got to believe you've got that planned again for this coming year.
Yes, that will be coming up again this year. We'll be planning that. I do want to mention that every Veterans Day at 7:30 in the morning at the Veterans Cemetery, the Vietnam veterans have a special service, and it's their service. It's just a wonderful event, and I congratulate them for doing that. It's always important that not only we honor all of our veterans, but our Vietnam veterans especially.
You also had something. I was unfortunately unable to attend, but I'm told by people that were there that it was actually quite moving. The Gold Star Parents Ceremony. What was that all about, and what took place?
Each year in October, we honor the families, the mothers and fathers, and brothers and sisters and loved ones that lost a loved one over in Iraq and Afghanistan. In our Garden of Heroes, we have names of those people that did lose their lives over in service to our country in Afghanistan and Iraq. And we honor those people, those family members that are left behind here. And it's a very important event. For me personally, it's a very moving event. I have a very, very, very dear friend whose name happens to be on that monument. But we can never do enough to make sure that they are never forgotten, and as long as I am here, they will never be forgotten. And the Gold Star parents, we always want to make sure that they're aware of that. Their sons and daughters will never be forgotten. You know,
I've always said tears are nature's safety valve, and that cathartic process for those families is so vitally important to their healing, and you're to be congratulated on that. I know that in your hometown, the Veterans Home is another project that you're always keeping a close eye on. One of your biggest achievements, I got to believe, was that bond issue that passed that deals with the veterans home. Bring us up to date on what's been going on there.
Right now, the federal government came in and they brought in some consultants to take a look at the property and what we can do to actually to build a home. We had envisioned a plan where we would try to build a home into the topography of the land. However, the federal regulations will not allow us to do that. They want everything on a one level basis. So we're going to use the actual existing water tower that's there as the focal point, and we will build pods around that. And the federal government has approved that plan. We're going out to architectural design right now, and we are hoping that by June of 2014 we'll actually have the groundbreaking and we'll actually begin construction. But I do want to mention one other thing. Yesterday, the 23rd of October, was the 30th anniversary of the bombing in Beirut of the Marines. We lost 241 Marines, and the Portsmouth Historical Society had a very, very important commemoration of that date. We never want to forget those men that lost their life in the Marine Corps. And it was Senator Reid and Senator Whitehouse were there, and a proclamation was read by the governor. But it was very important that we never forget, no matter what war it is, that anyone that loses their life in service to our country must always be remembered. And I just wanted to mention that and congratulate and thank the people of the Portsmouth Historical Society for putting that wonderful event on.
I saw they got a lot of media coverage, and you're exactly right. It's important to remember that that tremendous loss of life. You do so much work with veterans, and as I said, you chair the House Veterans Affairs Committee. But you also do a lot of other things, and sometimes you're dealing with controversial topics like the Sakonnet River Bridge toll. You're not on the commission that's studying this, but I understand you testified before that group. What did you tell them? I know you've told us in the past that you were against the toll on that bridge. Where does that whole situation stand right now?
1,001% against the tolls on the Sakonnet River Bridge, because again, it affects all of the industries in the East Bay, and people coming over from Tiverton, Fall River, southeastern Massachusetts into Rhode Island to work, and vice versa, people that are going out. It's going to be a tremendous burden on the people in the Aquinic Island and the East Bay. I'm convinced that we don't need that. We looked at one of the important things that was brought up at that meeting was the fact that the Turnpike and Bridge Authority has the ability to go out to bonding by themselves. And I believe that we should consolidate that bonding, if you will, and put it under the control of the General Treasurer, where if we could probably get a better interest rate than having one agency going out and trying to get their own bonds. I think if we consolidated that, that would be very important.
What do you predict's going to happen there? Are we stuck with this toll no matter what?
Well, we're still fighting it very, very closely. Representative Edwards, who is on the commission, he represents District 70, which is Tiverton and Portsmouth, and I've been working very closely with him. Representative Canario, Representative Finn, and also Representative Ken Marshall, who's also from Bristol and Warren, to try to make sure that we get our point across, that you put a toll on the Sakonnet River Bridge, you are going to hurt businesses. We've already know that there is one business that has a $90,000 a week payroll, $3 million a year business, that's going to move. They're going to move to Fall River.
They've already announced that?
They've already announced that. So that's important. And that's only one business. There's a lot of other ones that are going to follow suit, and we can't have that happen. We just cannot have that happen, because we're saying to the people in both the defense economy industry, Raytheons and things like that, don't bother coming to the state of Rhode Island, and that's what we can't do.
You know, as far back as when I first met you 6-7 years ago and interviewed you for the first time, I remember the environment being very, very important to you, and certainly you represent a real picturesque part of our state where there's a lot of recreation, and the water is certainly an important element to your communities that you represent. You've always been concerned about these coal-fired power plants. You have to be pleased that it's been announced that the Brayton Power Point station is going to be closing. That has to make you happy, I would think.
It makes me happy, but I'm still wary.
Okay.
Because until they shut down the coal-burning furnace, shut the lights off and lock the doors, I don't think it's going to happen. And I say that because if you look at what that power station means to the whole grid process and putting power into the grid, and ISO New England already has they still have a contract with them to 2016 to pay the same rates. Now the town of Somerset, which gets some $12 million per year in tax revenue from them, they've made a special deal with them to reduce that tax burden. So I still think that I'm concerned that they could potentially keep that plant running. However, I'm supportive of the legislation in the Massachusetts General Assembly, they call it their Grand Committee, that would prohibit the burning of coal in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. That's important, and that needs our support.
And even though it's in Mass, the proximity to our state is such that it's still, you believe, a threat, and until you actually see it happen with your own eyes, you're still not buying in.
I'm still not buying in because it is still a major threat, because the price of burning coal is so inexpensive as to compare to burning natural gas or burning oil, that somewhere along the line, I'm just concerned that they will appeal the decision that ISO New England would not give them a better rate to the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. And if the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission determines that that plant is necessary, then we have a altogether different ballgame.
We're taping the show today in room 35, the House Finance Room. This is a room that's very familiar to you. You spend a lot of time here. You serve on the House Finance Committee, a very important committee here at the state capitol. How's budget planning going for 2014? How would you size it up?
Well, we're looking right now. We've already had a briefing on some of the problems that some of the departments are having, especially with overtime. We're looking at some overtime costs in some of the Department of Corrections, for example. They seem to always keep going over budget, so we need to get a handle on that. The governor's asked his departments for a cutback in each one of their particular individual budgets. We have to do something, because we are looking at a projection of a $150 million deficit next year. We can't have that happen. As you know, we have to have a balanced budget, so there has to be cuts that are being made. We always have to be wary of what's going to happen in Massachusetts in terms of their casinos coming online, because that's a very large piece of revenue that we have that comes to the state of Rhode Island. So we're looking at it. We're always monitoring that. Our House fiscal staff does a tremendous job in keeping us apprised on a monthly basis of what the revenues are that are coming in, how they're being spent, and we may have to take some good to hard looks this year on where we're spending our funding.
Well, it's a daunting task, Chairman. I know you and your colleagues on the Finance Committee are up to that challenge. I want to take this opportunity to thank you for giving us a half hour of your time today to talk about some of the things that are important to you and some of the things that you and your colleagues are working on. I wish you and your district the very, very best.
Thank you very much, Dave. Thanks for having me today. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for coming. And of course, we could not do it without you. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Dave Barber, and remember, you heard it straight from the Gavel.